Okay, so based off of what we did yesterday, I was just going to do a few more problems with you to make sure you were comfortable with solving these absolute value equations. So if you look at number 9, you may have already done it, but this is kind of what you need to make sure you know how to do. The absolute value expression is over on the right side. Is there anything outside of it? Yes, the minus 11. So you want to undo that first. So you will add 11. And you would get 6 equals the absolute value of 8 minus p. Now the absolute value is isolated, so you can drop the absolute value. When you drop it, you set the opposite side to the positive and to the negative. And then you're just going to equation solve. So here I'm just going to subtract 8. Negative 2 equals negative p. Divide by negative 1 to get rid of that negative right here. So p is equal to 2. Same thing over here. Again, I have to divide by negative 1 because the negative in front. And then I will type these two answers back into my original equation. So I have the absolute value of 8 minus 2, because that's the p I got, minus 11 on the outside, gives me negative 5. Then I can do the absolute value of 8 minus 14. Minus 11 on the outside. So I got negative 5 on both of these, and that's what I was supposed to get. So p would be equal to 2, 14. Okay. So looking at number 11. Now this one might seem a little confusing, but if you look here, you have a 9 minus 4 outside the absolute value. So you want to get rid of the 9 and the minus 4. Well, if you think about the 4 being up next to the absolute value, that indicates multiplication. So you always undo the easiest thing first. So like adding and subtracting is easier than multiplying and dividing. So instead of going ahead and subtracting these, you're going to want to get rid of that 9 first by subtracting it, because now what you have is negative 4 up next to the absolute value. Negative 15 minus 9 is negative 24. Okay. Now, whenever you see this indicates multiplication, so you do the opposite. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 4. Now the absolute value is isolated, so you can do this to the positive and to the negative. Subtract 10, subtract 10. C is equal to negative 4. C is equal to negative 16. And then once again, I'm going to take both of those answers and I'm going to go up to the top. So I'm going to do 9 minus 4 and then the absolute value. So C. So I have C is negative 4 plus 10. It gave me negative 15. That is what I was wanting to begin with. So then I'm going to do the same thing, but now I'm going to try that negative 16. So I'm going to do 9 minus 4, absolute value of negative 16 plus 10. They both work. So C is equal to negative 16, negative 4. So if you look at number 12, looking at number 12, you have the absolute value on the right side. the negative 12 up next to the absolute value indicates multiplication, and then you have a plus 8. So you want to undo the plus before the multiplication. So undo plus, you subtract. You would get negative 24 equals negative 12 absolute value of k over 5. Well, again, this indicates multiplication, so to undo multiplication, you will divide. So I'm going to divide both sides. That would give me 2 equals the absolute value of k over 5. Now, there's nothing else outside the absolute value. You got rid of the negative 8 and the negative 12 and the 8. So now I can say, okay, 2 is equal to k over 5, and negative 2 is equal to k over 5. This is a division. Whenever you're looking at equation solving, division problem. So to undo division, you will multiply both sides by 5. 5 times 2 is 10. So 10 is equal to k for that one. Same thing over here. Multiply both sides by 5. And I'm going to get a negative 10 equals k. So my two answers are 10 and negative 10. I'm going to go ahead and type them in my calculator. So negative 12, absolute value of k, which is 10, over 5 plus 8. So this matches this exactly. I got out negative 16. That's what I was supposed to get out. I'm going to go back up here and just change this because my other answer is negative 10. And I also got out negative 16. So both of these work. So k is equal to negative 10 and 10. And that would be your answer. Okay, so now we'll kind of look at the next couple questions. They're going to look a little bit different than what you have been seeing. So what I mean by that is, if you look at number 13, instead of all of this just being set equal to a number, just like these, you only had the absolute value on this side and it was always equal to a number. Now you'll have the absolute value that it'll be equal to an expression. So whenever you have it equal to an expression, you're still going to draw your line, and you're going to say, okay, which side is my absolute value on? It's on the left. Is there anything outside of it? No, there's not. So I can go ahead and drop my absolute value, and I'm just going to leave that to what it was set equal to originally. And then what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to change. Usually we would just do like a positive side and a negative side. Now that it's like an expression over here, you'll change the sign of everything on the opposite side of the absolute value. So we're still going to leave 3x minus 9, but instead of saying x plus 1, x is positive, so I'm going to change it to negative x, and then I'm going to change that to a minus 1. And then it's just equation solving from there. So I'm going to go ahead and move my x to the left. By subtracting it, I'll move my number, or my constant, to the right. And then divide. So there's one of my answers. Same thing over here. I'm going to move my x to the left, so to move negative x, I'm going to add it. That would give me 4x minus 9 equals negative 1. Then I'm going to add 9 to get rid of that. Negative 1 plus 9 is 8. Divide by 4. X is equal to 2. Okay, so Now, whenever you're plugging these back in, it's going to be a little bit different because we're used to like saying it's equal to a number. So I'm actually going to write this on another sheet of paper so you can see everything that I'm talking about. So my two answers are x equals 5 and x equals 2. So I'm going to go back up here, and I'm going to have to plug in. So I'm going to have to plug these in separately. So what I mean by that is I'm going to plug it into the left. I'm going to take the 5 and I'm going to plug it into the left. So I'm going to say, okay, let's get it to where you can see it. The absolute value of 3, it says x, so I'm going to put 5 minus 9. So this matches the left side. So I got the absolute value of 3 times 5 minus 9, and that gave me out 6. So I plugged it into the left. Now I have to plug it into the right. So what I need to do is I'm going to take that 5 again, and I'm going to say, okay, x plus 1. What is our x? It's 5. So I'm going to do 5 plus 1. And it gave me out 6. 5 plus 1. So they both gave me out the same answer. So yes, this one works. So same thing. Now I'm going to try the 2. I'm going to take the 2 and I'm going to plug it in over here. So this would be 3 times 2 minus 9, the absolute value of it, right? So I'm going to type that in, change that to a 2, and I get 3. So now that I've plugged it into the left, I have to plug it into the right. So I'm going to say 2 plus 1, and I'm also going to get out 3. So those two were the same, so yes, that works. So for your answer on number 13, x is equal to 2 and 5. Okay, so on the next one, number 14, absolute value is on the left. Is there anything outside of it? Yes. The 2 is outside of it. This indicates multiplication. To undo multiplication, you are going to divide. So I have the absolute value of h plus 8 equals 14 divided by 2 is 7, so 7h. Now the absolute value is isolated, so now I would say h plus 8 equals 7h. And then what is, you only change the sign of the side that's opposite of the absolute value. So this was opposite of the absolute value. So I would say h plus 8 equals negative 7h. Now it's just equation solving. So subtract 8. Now I cannot say 7h minus 8. I can't actually subtract the 2 because, ooh, I messed up. Sorry. Sorry, you guys. No, don't do that part. Here. Let me rewrite it. So if you look here, we have variable, number, and then a variable. So I wouldn't actually subtract the 8. The 8 can stay over here. I would move the h over here because you want to move the h's on the same side. So same thing here. So I would say, okay, let me write this on this paper. So now I would say, okay, 8 equals 6h for this one. To get h by itself, you would divide by 6. 8 over 6 simplifies to 4/3. So there's one of my answers. Now on this one, I subtract 8, so I get 8 or subtract h like this. Divide by negative 8. This would give me negative 1 equals h. Sorry, you might not be able to see all that. So here are the two answers for number 14. Now I do need to check these, and I'll have to. Do you see how the variable's on both sides? So I'm going to have to plug it into both sides. So I'm going to try 4/3. So I'm going to go 2 absolute value of 4/3 plus h. And it should be equal to 14 times what? 4/3. So I'm going to type in this left side, 2 absolute value of 4/3 plus 8. And I get 56/3 for this side. Now on this one, 14 times 4/3, because that's my x value. And I also get 56/3. So because I got the same thing, this one does work. 56 equals 56. So now I'm going to do the same thing using this equation, but now I'm going to try -1 for my h. So I will say 2 absolute value of -1 plus 8, and that should be equal to 14 times h, which is -1. So I'm going to type that in my calculator. 2 absolute value of -1 plus 8, and I get 14 for this side, and I plugged it in. Now I'll do other, and I get -14. So whenever I plugged in -1, I should have got these two expressions to be equal to each other, but I got 14 for this one and -14 for this one. So that's the extraneous solutions that I was talking about yesterday. So this one does not work. So for your answer on this one, you would just have h equals 4/3. Okay? Let's see, let's do number 16. So the absolute value is already isolated, so I can go ahead and drop it. Now, that's your first expression, but you need your other expression. Well, you never change what was inside the absolute value. You only change the opposite side of it. So, and you change the sign of everything over here. This was -4. So I'm going to do positive, and then I'm going to say +2, and then set it equal like so. And then it's just equation solving. I'm going to just work it out, because you should be able to equation solve. So when I equation solve, this is what I got for W. Then I'll go over here and do the same thing. Subtract 6W, get -2W. Subtract 2. Divide by -2. So these are my two answers. I'm going to write those two answers on this other sheet of paper real quick so we can check both of them. Okay, so I'm going to check W equals -11/5. So whenever I do this, I'm going to plug it into the left. So -4W, my W is this, equal to, we have the absolute value. I'm going to go back and use the same W that I used on this side. So this would be 6 times -11/5 plus 20. And then you type that in your calculator. And I got 34/5. And then I have to type it in over here. 6 times -11/5 plus 20. Okay? And so I got the left side to be 34 over 5 and the right side, so yes, that works. So that is an answer. But then I also need to try that negative 9. So I will use the same equation. So I will start with, I'm going to write it up here beside it. So this is going to be negative 4w, which is negative 9, minus 2. And then set it equal to the absolute value of 6w plus 20. So I'm going to check the left side. Negative 4 times negative 9 minus 2. I get 34. Type in the right. 6 times negative 9 plus 20. And I get 34. So because they were equal to each other, whenever I plugged it in the left and the right, I got the same answer. This one works as well. So your answers here is going to be W equals, let me make sure. This would be W equals negative 9 and negative 11 over 5. So because they both work. All right. So if you have any questions, please email me, and then I will post what numbers you should do for your homework page. Thank you. Have a good day.